I was at All Out, guys, right? I was out there just to be cheering for the return of Brian Danielson. Well, the debut of Brian Danielson in AEW, but I didn't know what to expect from him in the ring, right? Because we hadn't seen Brian Danielson wrestle since 2012. We've seen Daniel Bryan plenty of times, but ever since SummerSlam 2012, when he returned to the WWE, we've seen Daniel Bryan, who's still a great wrestler. He's still put on 5-star matches in WWE, but we finally saw him debut in ring Dynamite Grand Slam this week. And it wasn't Daniel Bryan we saw in the ring. No, 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 no. It was Brian Daniels. And it looked like he had not lost a step. He was in there against the greatest wrestler on the planet, or one of the top three at least, in Kenny Omega. And what a story they told this week. People are calling it a classic. I can't call it a classic because it's only 2 days, 3 days old. Right? I mean, we don't know if it's a classic yet, but it was certainly a fantastic match, and it's amazing to me that for the second time in 2.5 weeks, we have people going all over all over social media about how AEW's put on the match of the year. We had the cage match, then we had this match, 2 times in less than 3 weeks. So that's pretty awesome. But I really liked the story of that match. I really liked how Danielson wanted to wrestle the best in the world, and Kenny Omega was proving to him pretty much the entire match that he was the best in the world. So
right.
I thought it was a great way to kick off pro wrestling, or kick off Dynamite Grand Slam this week, kick off Grand Slam in general. And I don't know about you, Jeff, but I thought both shows were just absolutely fantastic. And
well, what I was able to see of both shows.
Yeah, that's right. You haven't seen Rampage yet. That's right.
I've got the last half hour of it.
Welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I am your host, Dan Mancini Sagunia, along with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff. You said you saw about half an hour. You have about half an hour to go, right?
Yeah. So I've got the lights out match and the Bunny or the Penelope Ford Anna Jay match left to go.
Okay, so let's just. I always want to get this out of the way real quick because I have a couple of nitpicks with Rampage. Nothing for Dynamite. Rampage had a couple of nitpicks with it, so I just wanted to get those out of the way real quick. First of all, the commentary was terrible.
Yeah, which is weird because when I've seen Taz, Excalibur, and Ricky Stark on Dark, they've been phenomenal. They were just bad. In that CM Punk match alone, CM Punk went up to the top rope to deliver the Macho Man elbow. He even did the whole fingers up, pointing to the sky and all that stuff right before he did it. And Taz is screaming, "What the hell are you pointing at?"
I know, it was
just an elbow. And it was like, I was like, Taz, how did you miss that was the Macho Man elbow that he was doing? I mean, I knew it the second he put it in the air.
Yeah, well, see, and I remember like that used to be one of his trademark moves, right? He would either hit the knee strike in the corner and the clothesline, or the knee strike in the corner, and then a running bulldog. And the next move would be the elbow drop from the top rope. Yeah. And I remember being surprised at All Out when he hit that clothesline, but he just went for a pin right away. He did not go for the top rope elbow. I was like, okay, well maybe he's just not going to apply for the top rope anymore, right? But he did do it last night. I thought that was really cool. But yeah,
the other issue I had with that match. The other issue I had with that match is when Punk put on the sleeper hold and he called it a rear naked choke. That was, those were the two things that Taz did during that match that just really bothered me.
But just in general, like Starks and Taz, every time the heel came out going, "Oh yeah, that's my friend," it got very super irritating. It was like, okay, you don't need to say it every time. We get it. You're fucking heels. They're heels. Shut the fuck up.
Right.
And for them to be friends with the American Top Team makes absolutely no fucking sense, because that totally destroys the whole thing about Dan Lambert hating everybody in WWE, or I'm sorry, everybody in AEW except for Sky and Paige.
Yeah.
So
Man of the Year.
Yeah.
The other thing too that
the other nitpicks I had were, why does Orange Cassidy's music hitting and hitting the running punch, the orange punch on who thought he hit it on Jack
Jack
Evans.
Evans.
Make Matt Hardy stop cutting Ortiz's hair. and like the last thing I'll get, and then I'll let you talk. So sorry, I just wanted to list them out before I forgot. But speaking of the American Top Team, if the rest of Inner Circle were there, and especially they like Pride and Power put a match right after that, why the fuck weren't they out there trying to help their teammates?
Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna comment on that last because I read something from Jericho earlier this week that kind of explains what's going on with the Inner Circle and Pinnacle. First of all, Taz was off his game. Ricky Starks was just absolutely horrendous. And like I said, I've listened to that commentating trio multiple times on Dark and absolutely loved them. They sounded like they're having fun, they're laughing, they're making fun of Ricky Starks. This time it was just, I don't know what the problem was, but they were just off. They were not cohesive. None of the three of them were working well together. Ricky would just throw in some stupid comment that made absolutely no sense, and then Taz would go, "Oh, I hate cliches," and then Taz would follow it up with a cliche. It was just horrendous. That was the only real negative I had on what I've seen. I think Private Party, considering where they were 2 years ago, is really getting lost in the shuffle now that they're part of the Hardy family office. They just don't seem to have it anymore. They don't have that drawing power that they had a couple of years ago. Like, I understand Blade and Butcher being part of it. I understand H2 or Hybrid 2 or whatever being part of it. But Private Party needed to stand on their own.
And they were the first team ever to beat each other.
Yeah, but they seem like they're lost in tag team shuffle hell right now because they're part of the Hardy family office, and they were fine on their own. So I don't get it. And then the whole Inner Circle thing. I read something earlier in the year that the match where the Inner Circle was going to disband, that was the Stadium Stampede match, right? Or was that the one after it, the War Games, whatever match it was, when they were supposed to disband, that was actually Jericho's idea, and Jericho wanted to disband the Inner Circle. Okay. He wanted them to go their separate ways. And Tony Khan talked him out of it and told him that why disband something that's great? You guys can still be a group and doing your own things. So right now they're all doing their own things, but like you said, I don't understand. They're still a group. So where was Sammy? Sammy was in the building. He came out 2 segments later to flash some signs. Like you said, Santana and Ortiz were there.
And what did his vest say on?
Inner Circle.
Inner Circle original. Yep. So
yeah.
It's like
it made no sense to me why they didn't come down. I thought that too, but then I read that article about Jericho and Khan earlier this year talking about breaking them up. So it kind of makes a little more sense that they're going their own way now, but they're still a group. But we've seen that now with the Pinnacle too. It looks like the Pinnacle is kind of going their separate way. I think you mentioned it. It's like it's MJF and Wardlow on one side doing their thing, and then it's FTR and Sean Spears and Tully doing something else.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, I'm perfectly fine if that's the case. If they're going to be separate from each other. I prefer that. If they're not going to push the Inner Circle, I mean not the Inner Circle, but the Pinnacle as like a 4 horseman type group, I'd rather that MJF just be on his own with Wardlow, and
right.
until Blanchard have his team. That's perfectly fine. But my thing is that the Inner Circle is still together, and we saw that all out that they were, right? They all came down to support Jericho. They had that big moment at the end where they're all singing together. They should be, together. And I mean, it's probably something as simple as maybe they should have switched some of the matches, right? They put the 8-man tag on. It's hard for me to want to change anything for Dynamite. Dynamite was such an awesome show, maybe they just switched those two things around that there wouldn't be quite as much of a disconnect. It just so odd that like Jericho and Swag and Hager were getting beat down. They go to commercial, come back, and Proud and Powerful. It's like, well, if you were there, why didn't you help out your partner?
Why didn't you help out your boss? Your boss is getting beat down,
right?
And you're just standing in back watching it. I mean, they rushed to the rescue of Penta and Ray, but they couldn't rush to the rescue of their teammates.
Exactly.
So yeah, I get that. It didn't make much sense to me either. Why it happened. The whole time I was waiting for even at least Sammy to come running out, but nothing. Nobody came out.
No.
So yeah, but Dynamite, the match quality was fantastic. Like every match that I saw was fantastic all throughout this week. And I watched some other matches too that I'm sure we'll end up talking about here soon that weren't AEW, but I thought Dynamite, every match was a banger. I thought the three that I've seen or that I saw so far on Rampage were fantastic. It was a weird mix of, like, I'm not going to call it a classic that came out of the Christian Cage, or I'm sorry, not Christian Cage, CM Punk, Powerhouse Hobbs. It seemed like there was a weird chemistry disconnect between those two, but I still thought it was a fantastic match. And that triple threat match, or that trios match with Christian, Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy against Super Elite or Super Click, I thought was fantastic. That match was just great.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, and like, my wife was sitting here where I'm sitting right now, and I was sitting in the recliner behind me when that match was going on, and she was like looking at her phone, and the Jackson started running the ropes. I was like, honey, you're gonna miss the best part. You're gonna miss the best move in wrestling.
Right.
Because I mean, as critical as I've been on Adam Cole on this show, when he's with the Super Click, I'm just in heaven. Because I remember all the time in Ring of Honor and New Japan, we saw them together, and how fantastic those trios matches always were when those guys were together.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked up just in time to see them kiss Adam Cole on the cheek, and she's like, yeah, he's so beautiful.
Well, the first time I saw them was in their PWG match.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember who it was against, but it was Matt, Nick, and Adam Cole. And that match was just fantastic. Probably one of the best trios matches I think I've ever seen. And then everything they did after that was just amazing. They had that one match on Ring of Honor that still ranks as one of my all-time favorites for the 6-man or the trios title, whatever they called it.
It's a 6-man title. You're right.
Okay. Yeah, and they just deliver. And you're right. I didn't even realize it when I mentioned it before, but they took the boom from the UE theme and made an entire song about it, and then named the last shot or the last call or last shot, whatever it is, the boom. Now I love what AEW does. I just absolutely love everything they do. They take the smallest little bit that they can find and turn it into a huge gimmick, because it was something that got over with wherever they were before.
It's funny you mentioned that, because when you texted me that you were having trouble with your computer this morning, I looked on Spotify for that song, and I was actually grooving out to that song for a little bit while I was waiting for you. It's like, yeah, it's great. Yeah. And the other thing we talked about this week was the theme songs was like the Bryan Danielson thing about the Flight of the Valkyries, or the Ride of the Valkyries, if you want to call it by the wrong name, but the Flight of the Valkyries was his WWE theme. They tried to get Final Countdown, his old independent and Ring of Honor theme. The crowd really used to always sing along to with him, and Europe wanted an exorbitant, fucking ridiculous amount for it, which was just retarded of them.
And to use it about half the time that he'd be needing it.
What he's in a total of 20 times a year, and you figure if you like do a run in, your music's gonna play. If you then when you come up for your match, your music's going to play. So I mean, they could, that would waste 2 out of those 20 times on one episode.
And then if you win the match, then your music plays. So
Yep, there you go.
you'd have 3 times. You'd have 3 times that, or you come out for an interview, your music's going to play. But I read somewhere too that Daniel Bryan hated that song, and the only reason he used it on the Indies was as a joke.
No, they tried to get it. But
I wish my stupid Google would work, because I would love to look up that article I read. But I remember reading somewhere that Daniel Bryanson or Bryan Danielson hated that song, and he used it simply as a joke, kind of like Tony Deppen does in GCW with Starship. And we built this city. Yeah, I mean Tony Deppen's using that as a joke, and that's kind of what I heard Daniel Bryanson did. Or Jesus, Bryan Danielson. It's gonna take me a decade to figure that out.
Yeah, Daniel Bryanson may very well hate that song, but Bryan Danielson apparently really wanted it. So.
I guess I don't know. I really wish my Google would work so I could look it up.
But that ended up with him asking. I think he said the name of his friend was Mike Elliott or something to write a song for him. So basically, they started out with Flight of the Valkyries. Then it leads into this brand new theme song. So they're really killing it that way too. I don't know. Do we want to backtrack and go to start a Dynamite and then move forward to Rampage, or where do you want to go?
Dude, we're just having a conversation. We'll go all over the place. But I think, and it's weird, but I'm trying to think. I know we were down a little bit on AEW earlier in the year because so much stuff was happening on Dark and Elevation, and then it would just show up with no story on Dynamite. But I think somewhere around, I want to say June-ish, when Malachi Black debuted, and probably right before that, ever since that moment, this company cannot do anything wrong.
No.
It's mind-boggling. They literally, from theme music to interview time to the way they're managing talent, even with the roster that they've got, they still manage their talent amazingly well. The only negative that I could say even slightly is I still have issues with the way that title matches are handed out. It doesn't seem, I know they've got this whole ranking system and all, but it doesn't seem like they are really doing it well. Because Butcher comes back after how long? 6 months off, and all of a sudden Blade and Butcher are the number 1 contenders.
Yeah, but they were also undefeated this
year. Right, but and then it was the same thing now. Sammy Guevara, last time Sammy Guevara wrestled in AEW, he wasn't even on Double or Nothing or on All Out. And I think the last time he wrestled was like 3 months ago. He shows up on TV to talk about his best friend, Fuego del Sol, and he comes out and does his little sign gimmick during the picture-in-picture stuff. But he hasn't done anything in months. And now all of a sudden he gets a TV title shot. That's my only negative about AEW right now. Everything else they're doing is just...
I don't think the TNT title really factors into the rankings, though. I mean, because if we look at it like, Fuego del Sol got a TNT title match. He was like 1-27, and that's how like Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingston came into the company, was getting shots at the TNT title, right? So I don't think the TNT title. I think the TNT title is meant to be more of like a open challenge type of belt where anybody in the world can challenge for it. I think that's what Cody said when it was first instituted. So I don't have a problem at all with people getting shots at that belt. But yeah, Sammy Guevara, I would love for it to have been more like, him having like an actual build towards this match, right? Because the last time we saw him actually wrestle was against Shawn Spears in that street fight type match in Houston, and then he that's the show that he also proposed to his wife, I mean his fiance now, Pam, before
Right.
that show started. So I mean, and that was probably, I don't know, I don't think it was 3 months ago, but I think it was probably like, the middle of August at least, right?
It was 2.5 months ago. Yeah, it was a while ago, and and before that, he had that match against MJF. And before that was the Stadium Stampede match. So, or no, it was the Blood and Guts match. Was the Blood and Guts match first, or was the Stadium Stampede match first?
CSMP match was the finale of that.
Okay, so oh, that's right, yeah, because the Blood and Guts match is where he threw him off the stage, and that led to the Stadium Stampede. Okay,
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, we talked before about how can a guy get over like MJF does without being in the ring? Well, MJF is out there talking at least every episode. Sammy is just nowhere to be found, and it's I don't want to say they're misusing him.
It was August 18th, that match that I was talking about.
I don't want to say they're misusing him at all, because like I said, I feel like they do a great job. AEW does a great job of keeping everybody relevant. And you don't even have to watch Dark and Elevation anymore to see the relevancy of these people. They come out, they like Dante Martin. He had that fantastic match. He hasn't been on since. And it's got me just, the next time I see Dante Martin on screen, I'm going to be all giddy for it, because I'm just waiting for another performance like that.
Oh, it'll be Wednesday.
Yeah. So, and that's it's a perfect layout. It's like he's not there every single week, so you're not getting sick of him. Like Darby Allin wasn't even on Rampage at all, was he?
No, he was on Dynamite.
Right, he was on Dynamite, but not on Rampage. They didn't even mention him. Same thing with MJF. Didn't even mention him on Rampage. They're doing a really good job of not overexposing people, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I don't know if you got to the part in Rampage where they announced matches for next week's Dynamite yet, but
No.
But they've got it's Cody and Lee Johnson against Dante Martin and Matt Sydal, and they've also announced a one-on-one match between Jungle Boy and
Adam Cole, baby.
Yep, exactly.
Sweet.
Yeah. So they got some good stuff set up for. I don't want to tell you what the other matches they announced, because it kind of plays into
the rest of the night.
Kind of, yeah. What are the matches that you still have to go?
Well,
and another thing happens later in the night that I also don't want to mention. Something I really want to see and why it's not possible. So.
And the hair versus hair match that is now between Jack Evans and Orange Cassidy is kind of, I'm really not liking this hair gimmick that's going on between Orange Cassidy and Matt Hardy. It's just an annoying little feud that is kind of bothering me a little bit. But
I actually heard this week, speaking of that Thunder Rosa proposed having a hair versus hair match between her and Britt Baker.
Really?
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
It would be interesting. I think the only time I can remember it, I'm sure it's happened in Mexico before, but the only time I can remember there being a hair versus hair match for women's wrestling was when it was Molly Holly against was Victoria, right?
Yeah, and Molly lost that, didn't she?
Yeah. Molly lost it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, the slight little negatives that I have really cannot outweigh what they're doing. I can't question anything Tony Khan does. He is running this company perfectly. I just think they're hitting on all cylinders. And everything, no matter how great it is always going to have that slight negative. But it's such a small negative that I can't even complain about it.
Well, just thinking about, and this is maybe like a good way to quantify it is, there have been times where there's a Ring of Honor pay-per-view on a Friday night and it starts at 8:00 our time, goes to 11:30, and I'll tell you the next morning, well, I fell asleep with an hour to go in the show or half an hour to go in the show, or we'll talk about I'm watching some NJPW and I doze off at 10:30, 11:00 at night. last night I was wired all the way through, and Rampage went for started 9 o'clock our time, 11 o'clock our time. I was not tired at all. I was sitting there watching that thing, and it just like on not quite as much as on Dynamite, but it basically just felt like it flew through that show.
See, and it's tough
and
for me to.
And on Dynamite, like we talked about, we were like, you and I were texting back and forth about it, and I even tweeted out like, "Wait, how is it already made event?"
Right.
So.
Well, the problem with me and Rampage is, especially on a Friday night when I have my son, which I'm sure you can probably hear here in the background counting, is that it's Friday night and my son's here. And so usually I'll watch Rampage in the morning before we do our show on Saturdays. But a 2-hour show, I just couldn't get in this morning. That's just a lot of wrestling, a lot of wrestling. But it was everything I've seen was worth it. I mean, hey, let's start with the Kenny Omega Bryan Danielson match. Ooh, I did it right. I saw that Meltzer gave that a 5-star, which absolutely. Yeah. What?
You only give it 5?
I don't. Maybe 5+. I guess I don't know, but they said that was the first 5-star match that he's ever given Bryan Danielson.
Really?
Yeah. Which I find odd when you look at how great he is.
I'm looking at the star rating right now. Yeah, you're right. It was a 5-star. How did he only give that match 5 stars?
Probably because it was a TV match.
It was a TV match, but it like one very brief commercial interruption, and it was all on picture in picture.
Picture in picture, yeah.
And if one of the things, and you had that debate with him earlier this year, right, about
right.
his ratings, and when he said one of the things that he includes is the way the crowd is reacting. The crowd was fucking on fire that entire match. How could that not have pushed an extra star itself? I don't.
Well, now that I understand his rating methods, I'm not. I still look at him as he knows his stuff. He absolutely knows his stuff, and I look at his reporting that way. The matches that he does grade highly are usually highly rated matches. My problem was that there's certain matches that I didn't think he gave 5 stars to that he should have, but that's my opinion. That's the opinion-based part of it. And then when I figured out what his formula was, because he finally told me what goes into his ratings, it's not opinion, it's not feelings, it's based on a formula. And that's
I do get that, but my thing about that is, like, for instance, if you think about like Okada versus Omega, not their final 3 matches, but their first. That's the first one. That's the one he gave 6 stars to. Huh?
Yep, Omega, that was the one that broke the system.
Yeah, the Omega versus Okada main event Wrestle Kingdom went 47 minutes. Was that match really better than the match we saw this past week?
To be honest, I felt like this match was better, because my biggest complaint about that first Okada and Omega match was there wasn't enough time in between big moves. Like, there'd be a big move and there was no rest. There was no, ouch, I'm in pain. It was just somebody jumping up, almost like no selling it within seconds and moving on to the next move. Where in this match, I felt like that time was there. Like, they were not trying to rush to get to the next high spot. They were letting the story breathe. And that was, my only complaint about that first Omega Okada match is I felt like they were rushing the story just to get to the next spot.
And I also felt like this match had more of a story to it, in the sense that, we know the history of Bryan Danielson's neck. Right. And the way that Omega kept targeting it, we all were kind of like gasping, like, especially like that, especially like the running knee strikes on the outside, or the dragon suplex on the top rope. Like, oh my God, is Danielson going to be able to handle this? I felt like that psychology in that match was so much. As much as I love that Omega versus Okada match, and I do, I thought this match had this better, psychology. I mean, just because it didn't take place in Japan does not mean it wasn't a 6-star match. If you're going to use if you're going to have
No,
7 stars on your scale, you know what I mean? So
it's probably part of his formula. And I want to say this, we're going to get to it a little bit later on, but I want to say it now. Speaking of next, how the hell is Effie still alive? You know what I'm talking about? That monkey flip that he landed directly on his head.
yeah. Well, I think he probably just had like a rainbow like blocking his neck from being broken.
Is that what it was? Because when he hit the mat, I thought he was dead. Seriously, especially considering he didn't move for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But back to this, I think
the reason
why
it was
Meltzer,
almost like a monkey flip driver.
that was insane. Like that might have been the most insane thing I've ever seen. But back to the rating, knowing that what Meltzer's formula is, I think the reason why it didn't go above is because of a commercial break, even though it was picture in picture, and also because it was a TV match. I think that, I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling that that's the kind of stuff that rates into his formula.
We really need to stop thinking about things in terms of, just because of the way the business has changed, Jeff, we really need to stop thinking in terms of TV match versus pay-per-view match. And the reason
especially
I say
with AEW,
the reason I say that is, AEW, I don't know. I don't know what the rights fees are with TNT, right? But what I do know is that they earned about $5 million from All Out, and that's the most successful event of all time, right? Meanwhile, WWE is $289 million a year from Fox for SmackDown. So I mean, when you think about it that way, and think about how much ratings play into things, how much ratings play into rights fees for these TV shows, how much TNT was basically begging Tony to come up with a 3rd hour of wrestling for the week, and I'm sure that they're going to push him to do more going forward. We gotta we just can't think of it in those terms. Even though we're wrestling fans, we're not business people. We can't really think of it in those terms because they can't think of it in those terms. They've got to put together the best possible matches on their shows to keep driving people to watch their product.
And AEW has proven that there's no difference between a pay-per-view and a weekly show.
Right.
And that was one of my issues early on, was that the pay-per-views just felt like a regular Dynamite. And there really is no difference between a Dynamite and a pay-per-view, except the pay-per-view is where the stories end. So you have to watch the pay-per-views to see the stories end. But it, all in all, it's fantastic TV every week, all 3 hours of it. If you get a chance to watch Dark and Elevation, they do some fantastic stuff on that too. I just don't always have the time, but it looks like they've shortened Dark and Elevation to hour-long shows now.
They have. The problem is right now it's sort of G1 time too, so there's time everybody watching that.
Sure.
And then we also have the problem this week that flew under our radar, Jeff, but MLW returned this week with Fusion Alpha on Wednesday, and I haven't had a chance to watch that yet, but I saw that we get fucking Davey Richards versus TJP to start off with. So I mean, it's like, where do I find the time to fit that in? But I'm going to.
Well, and it's like my rankings right now on TV or on wrestling is at the top, of course, AEW. GCW is second for me right now because they're another company that just is not missing at all. Everything they're doing is fantastic. Then, of course, NJPW, because that's just great wrestling. MLW, right now for me, is sitting at 4th. And it's kind of a toss-up between 5th, whether on my mood, Ring of Honor or Impact. They're 5 and 6. Just depends on the week, I guess, for their order.
And when you say NJPW, of course, you mean New Junior Pro Wrestling.
What?
When you say NJPW, you mean New Junior Pro Wrestling.
Junior Pro Wrestling?
As in ZSJ.
Yeah, exactly. Holy crap. But even they're they've got 2 great shows too. They've got everything that's happening in Japan, and then Strong with Osprey and White. on it, and it's so much wrestling to watch, but it's so amazing. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Speaking of Strong and Jay White, I read this morning that last night's show had Jay White versus Wheeler Yuta.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess what I'm watching as soon as I'm done with this. Another thing too, is I've been back into BTE this last few weeks, simply because I heard there was a kind of a lead up one to All Out where they resurrected Adam Cole. So I watched that.
Yeah, you heard of that from me. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
And then I watched that one. Then of course I watched the next two. And yesterday I sent you that one, that I'm not kidding, that first 10 minutes or 5 minutes of that was some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. With the Kenny Omega's paranoia and them catching up with Adam Cole and trying to explain to them that they're not the bad guys and it's not their fault. Adam Page is not a part of the elite anymore, and Cody and it's just
I haven't seen it yet, but I saw you send it to me. But I think I think it's the most recent one. It's the only one because I'm trying to get so much wrestling in. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's lucky that it's good that it's only like a 15-minute thing, so I can watch on a break or something.
Yeah.
But it even BTE is just fantastic as well. Like the whole stuff. I just love Jonathan Silver when Anna Jay's around, because you'll see it in this one. He's just so annoying, and she's doing everything she can to not crack up while he's yelling in her ear, Anna.
I really like Sour Boy too. That cracks me up every time.
What's that?
Sour Boy? That cracks me up.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, Sour Boy cracks me up.
And it's given me a new appreciation for 2.0. I mean, not only am I really digging their in-ring work, their name sucks. We know that. But their in-ring work, especially Matt Lee, is fantastic. And then watching them and their personality on BTE is great as well. Just great as well. They were on this episode, you're going to see it. They were digging through Wheeler Yuta's bag, trying to find out what his enhancer is because his hair is jet black.
Matt Lee,
fantastic.
Matt Lee, and I mean this as a compliment for those who don't, I'm sure there'd be people out there that don't like Bully Ray, but I think Bully Ray was great at getting like just a heat magnet. And when I look at what Matt Lee does every time he gets in the ring, he reminds me so much of Bully Ray. He'll go out there, he'll get the crowd like pissing him off. He'll get the crowd all pissed off, do a couple of things, and tag out to Parker.
See, and I was going to say,
doing it. I think he does those little heat grabbing things so well.
And see, I was going to compare him to RSP.
Yeah,
because his in-ring heel work is so good. Yeah. He's good at his actions of getting the crowd angry. He's not yelling at the crowd like Bully Ray does. He's not, talking down to the crowd like Brian Johnson does or MJF does, but he has that in-ring ability to piss a crowd off and be a heel without actually using his words. I think he does a fantastic job. And if I were to compare him to anybody, it'd be Ricky Shane Page as far as that goes.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Because Ricky's the same way. He's just got some innate ability in his actions to piss the crowd off. And I see that same thing with Matt Lee. But Matt Lee, yeah. I'm really happy.
But you don't what you don't want to do with against Matt Lee is you don't want to play blackjack.
You don't want to play blackjack, and you don't want to play bottle pool or whatever. But the stuff that I'm just loving everything. Like 2.0, when they came on board at first, I was like, why are these guys getting pushed? Daniel Garcia and 2.0. Why are they getting pushed so hard? Why are they? Because they're fucking good. Tony knows what he's doing. It's like after I saw the way they first debuted, same thing with the Nightmare Factory, with I can't think of his name, QT Marshall, and everything. When it first happened, I questioned it, but it turned to gold. And that's what's happening right now with Daniel Garcia and 2.0 is it's turning to gold, even though I question it. At this point, I'm never going to question Tony again because he knows what he's doing. And the fact that he took a $25 million loan from his dad and 2 years later turned it into this, I'm going to start taking financial advice from that dude too, because that's just amazing.
I think it's so funny. I don't know if you heard this, Jeff, or not, but I guess I heard this like last week or the week before, maybe on Busted Open. But basically, like when he would like do like the Evolve. What do you call it? Anyway, the EVR or whatever that was called, the wrestling emulator type thing.
Oh yeah.
And he would make his own promotion. And his promotions TV show was Dynamite, and then like he was booking cards, and he was booking so many matches he had to make a second show, and that one was Rampage. and so AEW, their first two shows are basically the shows that he had, and he kind of had the same thing happen where he was booking so many, he had so much talent, booking so many things, he had to have a second show.
Right.
It all kind of worked out in real life the way that it worked out when he was emulating wrestling in his GM app, whatever that was.
That's great. That's fantastic. Well, I don't know. I can't say enough good things about AEW right now. I just really can't. Everything they're doing is great. It's all mad. It's all fantastic. All fantastic. The other big thing going on, and I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say it, ZSJ is going to win the G1.
He's not.
They broke the whole Gaijin at Wrestle Kingdom thing last year with Jay White being in the main event. He beat Naito. In fact, took Naito out, and then beat Shingo. Tell me who's going to win if not him.
I just don't think that they're going to push CSJ that far. I would love for them to. And I mean, I guess I shouldn't say like I shouldn't be like 100% sure that he's not, because fucking, Evil, we never would have expected to be the world champion. He won the world championship last year. But the thing is that I look at it and I'm like, he's already like in a prominent spot as being part of Dangerous Techers. He's already a world tag team champion. They've tended to keep putting those belts on that team, kind of the way they were doing GOD before. So I kind of feel like they're gonna, he's gonna be having a prominent spot in Wrestle Kingdom, but it's gonna be as the World Heavyweight Tag Team Champion or challenging for the World Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. So I mean, when I look at the field, I think we talked about this before. Like I'm looking at it, I do think that it's possible that the guy is going to be in there, but I think my guess would be it's going to be Jeff Cobb. I look at it. It's either going to be Kazuchika Okada or it's going to be Jeff Cobb.
And the way I'm looking at it is that ZSJ has all the credentials that they gave to Sonata a few years ago when we were thinking Sonata should have gotten that big push. ZSJ has all those credentials, and what he has that Sonata didn't is some kind of in-ring charisma, where Sonata is a great wrestler, but he didn't have that it factor. ZSJ does. I think that's the biggest difference between the two. But they tried it with Sonata, he just didn't catch on. But ZSJ has all the same credentials that Sonata had at that time during that run. So I could definitely see, and now he's got to win over the current champion. Well, the interim champion. Well, I don't know, the fake champion. Is that what Ospreay called him?
I think God, I'm a fake champion. I look at like what's coming up for Wrestle Kingdom, and it's going to be 3 nights this year, which is just insane, but it is.
Right.
So I kind of look at it like they took the Junior Heavyweight Championship off of Desperado, which was a fucking stupid move. Because they had this thing where they were building up, or like last year. I shouldn't say it was a stupid move, but it's stupid if they were doing what Takahashi wanted to do last year, right? Where Takahashi was like, I want to main event Tokyo Dome as a junior heavyweight champion. Well,
Right.
the way that would have worked is if Desperado kept on as a junior heavyweight champion, and Takahashi was coming back to challenge him for that championship, right? Two people colliding on those paths.
Right.
That's not going to happen anymore because now the title is no longer on El Desperado.
Yeah, it's on Robbie Eagles.
It's on Robbie
That-
Eagles. Yep.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I saw.
Yeah. Eagles beat Desperado for it, and then he beat Takahashi in the he beat Hiromu in the challenge when Hiromu challenged him for it. So
Okay.
so but actually now coming up, I don't know when because we've got G1 going on right now, but El Desperado is actually going to be facing Robbie Eagles title for title. So Desperado's putting the junior heavyweight tag team titles on the line against Robbie Eagles junior heavyweight championship. Yeah. So, but
So
my
Camarado has no say in it then?
what's that? Kanemaru?
So he has no say in whether they keep the championships or not?
Apparently not.
All right, whatever.
But so I'm looking at that and saying, okay, well, you've already kind of screwed up this junior heavyweight championship thing, in my opinion. So you've got to have something else going on for those 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom to build to the third night of Wrestle Kingdom, right? So the way I'm looking at it is we've already, Okada was already challenged by Will Ospreay. So, Ospreay wants to defend his real World Heavyweight Championship against Okada. And then we've got Shingo, who's going to need a challenger for his title, and Jeff Cobb, in the rematch from this past year's Wrestle Kingdom, would make a hell of a lot of sense in that spot. And then assuming that Ospreay defends against Okada and Shingo defends successfully against Cobb, then we've got that big unification match then at the third night of Wrestle Kingdom.
I can see them having a G1 in the US and having the winner of the G1 in the US against Ospreay on night 1, the winner of the G1 Japan against Shingo on night 2, and then Ospreay and Shingo on night 3 for the unification of it.
It's September 25th right now. If they're going to be doing a G1 in the US, better announce it pretty fucking soon.
They did it last year, like in no time. They put it together immediately.
They did a New Japan Cup in the US last year. There's a difference.
That Kenta won for the US to face the US champion.
Right. That was a New Japan Cup, which is only one match.
Okay, maybe they're going to end up maybe they'll do something like that then. I don't know. But the way Japan does things is they figure out their number 1 contenders by tournaments and by who gets a pinfall in those tournaments. So either way, ZSJ is going to get a title shot because he pinned the champion. So whether he wins the G1 or he doesn't, he's still going to get a title shot in the next few months.
Yeah. I just don't think he's going to be the G1 as much as I would love for him to.
I think he's where White was 2 years ago. It's just time. It's time. You got to strike while they're hot. I feel bad for Adam Page because I feel like he's cooled off a little bit now since he hasn't been on TV. I'm hoping when he comes back, they're able to get that fire going right away. But the story isn't looking so much like it's going to be Kenny versus Page at Full Gear, like we were originally thinking. Because full Gear is in what, a month?
And that really surprises me because it's in a month and a half. But that really surprises me because the Dynamite after Full Gear is in Hangman's home state. I felt, but he's got to come back soon if that's going to happen, right? He's got to come back soon.
He's got to come back this week if they're gonna get an event, because right now everything is about Bryan Danielson facing Omega at Full Gear to redo what they just did.
Yeah, well, within the next couple of weeks, But yeah, I mean, he needs to come back. I would say with at least with a month to go. Full Gear's on November 13th. So
Right.
you
And
know,
that's in Minnesota. That's at Target Center, right? They had to move it. It's November 13th.
that's the rumor. Hasn't been officially announced yet. But definitely for sure, Rampage the night before is in Target Center.
Yeah, I'd heard that they moved it to Target Center. I thought I saw it was confirmed. I could be wrong.
Well, if you look at the AEW Kicks website, it says to be determined.
Oh, okay.
So AEW has not confirmed it, although like a lot of different media sources are reporting.
Okay.
All
right.
Yeah, and you know that, and you know, being that we're in Minnesota, I was looking at ticket prices for Rampage, and you know, I looked at ticket prices for Dynamite, you know, in a couple of different locations, and like front row seats were going for like $95. At Target Center, they were going for like $450 for Rampage. I'm like, what the fuck?
Probably because it's a live Rampage that doesn't happen now because they tape at the same time they tape it right after Dynamite, and it's also a go home show.
No, but I was looking at Dynamite. They were $95 for front row tickets. Not Rampages. I was looking at Dynamite. So we're $45, $95 for front row tickets in other locations.
Okay, that doesn't make sense.
No,
That's
doesn't. That's what I'm saying.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's because they use AXS and AXS is a bunch of assholes or what. Because the other places use Ticketmaster, you know. So anyway,
I don't know, but as far as like the G1, I've only watched those 3 matches. I've had no interest in anything on the A block. ZSJ and Naito, ZSJ and Shingo and Ishii were the 3 matches I watched, and all 3 of them were fantastic. I thought ZSJ versus Naito was much better than the critically acclaimed Shingo versus Ishii. And then the one I watched yesterday with Shingo and ZSJ, that was just gold. That match was fantastic.
You know, I wonder. You know, I actually wondered a little bit this morning. I think it was about. I wonder if people who watched that with Japanese commentary would have appreciated it as much as we appreciated it watching it with American commentary. Because with the American commentary, you know, they were referencing back of the last time that they had wrestled each other and how Shingo had beat him with a rear naked choke, and so you know, Shingo was kind of focusing on the same thing, you know, focusing on the neck, you know, trying for the rear naked choke, trying for the sleeper, things like that to try to get him to tap. Instead of, he only went for the last dragon like the last couple of minutes of the match. You know, I mean, really he was going for the neck for the most part of the match against CSJ, and I thought, you know, that story was so great with, you know, with the arm of Shingo versus the neck of CSJ, and you know, just everything that CSJ was doing to that arm, and you know, and Shingo's, of course, you know, his usual just driving forward attack, but this time focusing on the neck of CSJ. It was just such a great match. I really enjoyed it, and then seeing and you don't ever, you know, we have never seen in an AEW ring Shingo get to the point where his spirit was broken, because that's what happened at the end of that match. You know, ZSJ, you know, he had him locked in that kind of like triangle arm submission, and 3 times Shingo tried to power out of it, couldn't do it, and eventually he just tapped out because he couldn't escape. You know.
Yeah, and tapping the heavyweight champion.
And you know, even against the match against Ishii, mentioned the match against Cobb, you know, we've never seen a spirit get broken.
No.
But Sabre did that too.
And he tapped the champion. Yeah. You know, that's huge. That's huge. That's kind of why I'm behind ZSJ right now to win the G1, is because that was such a huge moment. And you and I argued about it before, about how in wrestling moments mean a lot more to you than they do to me. But that was a huge star-making moment for a guy who was already a superstar.
Yeah, the other thing to look at with ZSJ is coming into this tournament, he had 9 submission wins in the G1. Now he's got now 2 matches this year. He has 11. So
Yeah, and aren't they calling him the submission specialist now?
Well, they always have.
No, but it was more prominent this time in his entrance video and everything than I've ever seen before. I mean, the man, and one thing that they did talk about that, not Kevin Kelly, his counterpart, Chris Sampson, is it? No,
Charlton.
it's not Chris Sampson. Chris
Chris
Charlton
Charlton.
talked about his 6-second rule.
Yep.
Where if you can't make a guy tap in 6 seconds, move to a new move. Having Chris explain that to me, now I'm watching ZSJ matches and going, oh, that's why he gave that up so quickly. Because I'm so used to seeing wrestlers, once they lock in a submission move, it's there. They just leave it there until the guy taps. And it could be 10, 15, 20 seconds. And I never understood that about ZSJ, about how he's constantly switching. But it was nice that Chris explained that, because it makes a whole lot more sense now.
It does. And I know you don't often watch the kind of aftermaths of matches in New Japan. Did you turn it off right after the match, or did you keep watching it for a few minutes?
I kept watching.
So you heard him say, so you probably heard TSA say something like, well, I just crushed the spirit of the Japanese dragon. Time for the American dragon. Where's that fucker at?
Yeah.
So
that's a match I want to see. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh yes, make that happen. Tony, make that happen, because I want to see those two together.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just fantastic. I'm just so in love with wrestling right now. And then
it's too bad New Japan has a show the same night as Full Gear, because that'd be a great match for Danielson. Full Gear also would be against CSJ.
Yeah, that's too bad, because that would have been a good way for, bring back Page, get him some heat with Omega, stir up that heat again with Omega to get that Full Gear, and then have Danielson wrestle ZSJ on that card. Would be perfect.
Yeah,
that'd be exactly. a perfect thing. And ZSJ, I mean, we saw what he did with Jonathan Gresham in 15 minutes 3 years ago. My mouth is watering at the anticipation of seeing Danielson and ZSJ together in the ring.
Speaking of Gresham, did you watch Gresham versus Suzuki from that?
Yeah, I was just gonna roll into GCW in the highest in the room. It was a weird mix of styles, wasn't it?
It was, but it was still awesome.
It worked. Yeah, it worked. Whatever it was, it worked. It kind of like it, and it didn't feel like the CM Punk Powerhouse Hobbs, where they just had that just misstep with chemistry. They seem to have a lot of chemistry, and they put on a hell of a match considering the difference in styles. And I really love the fact that Gresham kept trying to push his foundation thing with the handshakes, and Suzuki just kicked him away.
Yeah, it was great.
Really
Suzuki. I enjoy Suzuki so much more outside of New Japan than I enjoy New Japan.
Right.
Because he's not like running around with cables, choking people out, and that kind of bullshit. He's actually
he's going to on October 23rd.
He might use a chair here or there, but I mean, it's more, where he's actually, wrestling matches, and I really enjoy that fighting aspect of him.
I can't wait to see him in that death match against Nick Gage on October 23rd.
Yeah, guys, there's a couple of big shows coming up for GCW. I mean, I did not buy the shows this weekend. That's one thing. Like Jeff, you're your second promotion right now, and I really enjoy what they're doing. But at the same time, I can't afford to spend to buy their pay-per-views every single week. So
no, yeah, exactly.
It's only when they've got like a really super looking show that I'm going to buy them. And October 9th, we've got the death match for the GCW World Championship between Nick Gage and John Moxley. 2 weeks after that, we got again Nick Gage, this time against Minoru Suzuki. So another death match. So awesome.
I kind of wish that Mox would actually bring that GCW World Title to the ring on Dynamite. Kind of like Christian Cage does with the Impact. and Kenny does with the Triple A, and he did with the Impact and all that. But it is nice to see him wearing GCW gear.
And the Good Brothers with the Impact World Tag Team Championships.
Yeah. I kind of wish Mox would bring that to the ring, but he's at least wearing GCW gear on the way to the ring. So
right, and when's the last time you saw a celebrity match that as well as what you saw at highest? Also, what I mean?
Never. I mean maybe Stephen Amell.
I was going to say the Stephen Amell versus Bryan Danielson or Christopher Daniels match was awesome, but I thought this one just like played into so many great wrestling tropes, and we got some involvement from a fairly popular wrestler these days in the independent circuit of Ring of Honor, right? And we got some other stuff, and actually Ali was involved in that as well. I mean, there was so many things that like really played into that match with Ron Punches versus Tony Deppen, and I really was entertained throughout.
Yeah, I was too. And the one thing that I really need to point out is when a guy who is a paid actor, I can't remember the guy's name that came and turned on Funches, Josh something.
Paul Scheer.
Paul Scheer, yeah. I mean, he's a legitimate actor.
Right.
And he couldn't act for shit when Ali Ketch came out with that knife. I was watching that going, this is the worst acting I've ever seen in my life. And it's by a real actor.
Yeah.
But
when I was at the GCW show, Ali kind of like walked right by me, like with her ring gear on, the black, halter top and the black, short, kind of like panty like tights, and and I was thinking like I should say something to her, but I also like they also like mentioned like before the show, like she's kind of chicken to pull a knife on you, like, well, maybe I'm a little scared to talk to her.
Right.
It's the interaction, like pull a knife. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't say anything.
Right. Yeah, and that was a very entertaining match, and Tony Deppen getting the win, I felt was great, because normally in a match like that, it's always the actor that gets the win. So it was nice to see Tony get it. Tony is the MJF of GCW. Just everybody hates him.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
Right. Yeah, he is. He's great at what he does, but he is easily the MJF of GCW.
And the one thing that he has over MJF is he's got resting asshole.
Yeah. Yep.
MJF like we I don't know if you watched that. Did you watch that Britt Baker thing about where she was having like a super fan come in and was like introducing her to people and gave her like a front row seat and stuff like that?
No, I didn't.
Well, because that was like the one thing that kind of like disappointed me a little bit, was like MJF was like shaking her hand and like saying it's nice to meet her and stuff like that, where as everything else I've ever seen is like he's been like completely in character all the time.
Yeah, like on Twitter every time. Did you see the post? Did you see the post that his mom posted? They were at Grand Slam on Wednesday, and she made a sign that said, "We're MJF's parents and we don't like him either."
Okay.
And they interviewed her and for some wrestling podcast or wrestling show or whatever, but that's fantastic. And I mean, that calls back to, remember when Excalibur said even MJF's parents are indifferent to him?
Yeah,
he said that like what, 8 months ago or something like that. And to see his mom and dad in the crowd with that sign was fantastic.
No, I missed that. I mean, the sign that I saw, like, really on there was like that like giant Macho Man that would pop up every so often in the front.
Oh yeah,
on the hard cameras.
I didn't see it on the TV. It was on Twitter. It was retweeted by AEW.
Oh, okay.
I'm following AEW, so now I'm following MJF's mom too, because that's just fantastic.
Mrs. Friedman.
But, yeah, I can't remember what her name is, but yeah, it's just great. The other thing about GCW, that there were 2 other matches on that show that I really enjoyed. Big Breakfast versus Andy Zane.
Alex.
Is it Alex Zane or Andy?
Yeah, Alex Zane.
Alex Zane. Why did the WWE not know what they had with him?
I was
He's
thinking the
phenomenal.
same thing. Like, I looked at that match and I watched him against Big Breakfast, and I'm like, no. Okay, so even if you didn't think you could do anything with this guy, why did you not at least do a program with him against Seth Rollins?
Right.
I looked at that. I'm like he and Seth Rollins could have actually absolutely torn down the house.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, as speaking of Jordan Oliver too, though, he just continues to impress. Every time I see him in the ring, he's better every single time. And I love watching what he's doing in the GCW. I can't wait to start watching MLW again to see what he's going to be doing there. He's just ever since I saw that cage or that Iron Man match between him and Deppen, every time I see him, he's better and better every single time.
I don't, and I don't know if you, I don't know if you're ever planning on watching Death Before Dishonor or not, Jeff, but the Honor Rumble, Alex Zane was actually the 16th man in the Honor Rumble this year.
They'd mentioned that,
and he won it. So we're getting so we'll be getting at some point Alex Zane versus Bandito for the World Championship.
Bandito is still the champion.
He is, and they actually did a really nice job in that fatal 4-way building, making him look like a strong champion. So
okay, maybe. I'm planning on watching Death Before Dishonor, but like I said, right now it's probably 5th on my list. So it's not, not top priority. And I'm getting exposure to my Ring of Honor favorites by watching all these other shows anyway. The only one I haven't seen that I really want to is Brian Johnson. Well, and Shane Taylor. I haven't seen Shane Taylor, but other than that,
I'm not going to tell you how, but the Forbidden Door got opened again on Rampage, and so I'm really hoping we're going to get the Super Quick against STP.
On Rampage, it did.
It did, yeah.
So in this last half hour,
a Ring of Honor talent appears on Rampage last half. Yes.
Finally, Ring of Honor has been the one promotion missing from this Love Fest. That's going on everywhere. They're the one thing that has been missing, and they're suffering because of it. So hopefully,
and you know what? And I was kind of wondering about if that was going to happen. Not this particular talent, just the door was going to open because we on other Ring of Honor broadcasts, both pay-per-view and TV, they would say things like, Angelina Love has been a world champion of other promotions, EC3 has been a world champion of other promotions, right? Or in another promotion. On Death Before Dishonor, they actually called EC3 a former Impact World Champion, and they were congratulating Lee Moriarty on signing with AEW. So they were actually mentioning the names of those two promotions for the first time ever on their program,
nice.
which kind of made me think, well, maybe that frosty relationship that they, because basically what happened was Ring of Honor kind of got butthurt about, everybody leaving to join AEW. Basically, they lost the Elite, they lost
SCU, Best Friends.
Yep. So
no,
they lost
for Japan.
They were appearing a lot for AEW, or a lot for Ring of Honor. And so basically they lost like 10 of their most prominent.
Yeah, they literally lost their half their roster because it took them about a year to become good again.
Right. So I understand that, but it does seem like maybe that frost is thawing a little bit, and I hope that's true because I really think Shea Taylor Promotions against a Super Quick would be a fantastic match for us to finally get. I shouldn't say finally, but for us to get, because STP is the best 6-man tag in the world. So I mean, if we could get that match, and also like STP against the the longest reigning NJPW 6-man champions, that'd be fantastic as well.
I'm a little surprised that the Forbidden Door started with Impact and AEW.
Right.
And Impact they don't really have any programs going on right now, except their champion is their tag team champions are part of the Elite, and their champion is part of AEW. So
I was really hoping we would see a title switch at Victory Road. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me to keep having an Impact World Champ, your Impact World Champion be an AEW wrestler.
No,
because I mean we're getting to the point where once it gets to Bound for Glory, which is coming up like the middle of next month, it'll be a full 6 months now that AEW talent has been your Impact World Champion.
They still look at Christian though as an Impact talent,
but he's not signed. But he's not signed.
I know. No, I know. I get that, but he's not the invading guy like Kenny Omega was. He's actually looked at as an Impact person when you watch Impact. I just wish there was a little more crossover with the people on Impact. Like if Christian's going to be getting in a title fight against whoever, I don't know who his next opponent is, but why not have his next opponent run into an AEW ring and beat him up after a match or something? I don't.
Well, he's still in a program. He's still in a program against Ace Austin right now. So I don't know if they're going to have a rematch at Bound for Glory. I kind of doubt it, but that'd be kind of awesome if Ace Austin finally, does get that rematch and wins the championship from Christian Cage. But the thing, and I think I also saw kind of like a thing with Josh Alexander steering down Christian too, kind of title for title thing.
Right.
Interesting, or at least champion versus champion thing. But my point is not that you don't Christian as an Impact talent, at least that maybe management does. But as an Impact wrestler, would you rather have an Impact wrestler be your champion?
Exactly. But I think that NJPW, ever since Kenta showed up on Dynamite, NJPW has been prominent on Dynamite and Impact and and GCW. It seems like Impact really hasn't been a part of it lately. It's just their championship show up on Dynamite, but there's no crossover stories.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I don't know why they're doing it that way.
But it's nice to see Ring of Honor finally throw their hat in the ring and be a part of this too. Finally. Because that was the one thing that was really hurting them, was the fact that they weren't a part of all this. And MLW, and I'm loving it's not just the 3 big ones, Ring of Honor, or 4 big ones: New Japan, Dynamite, Impact, and Ring of Honor. It's also GCW, which is becoming a big part of this Forbidden Door thing too, which I'm really enjoying, especially because when was the last time you looked at a wrestler that was signed by a major promotion but was working on the independent circuit? Maybe Samoa Joe and AJ when they were originally with Impact, but they were still working with Ring of Honor.
Well, AJ also wrestled some independent things in his last month or so with TNA, right?
Yeah, but he was already out the door at that point. And then he might have
already been out the door, but he wasn't. His contract was not up.
Yeah, and then he went to the independent scene. But I mean, look at the guys that we've seen on GCW over the last month. We had Mox, Matt Cardona, Minoru Suzuki, Jonathan Gresham. Just There was
The
somebody else too,
MLW,
wasn't
the MLW World Champion was on highest.
there? Oh yeah, Jacob Fatu. That was the one I was missing.
Yeah.
That was the one I was forgetting. So it's just, and now with MLW being involved, it's, oh my God, I feel like I have to watch all the shows because you never know who's going to show up where.
Did you feel like a little bit, speaking of Jacob Fudu, did you feel like a little bit sick to your stomach watching the Dirty Daddy kick out of that insult? I mean, it's been so protected on MLW,
Yeah.
and Chris Dickinson kicks out of it.
Yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with that. I also, that was another instance where it's like, why didn't he wear the belt, his MLW belt to the ring? Why didn't he use his Contra music? Like I was waiting to hear "Hail Contra."
Well, he didn't wear his Contra ring gear.
Yeah, he
He wore like kind of like green, like kind of like tie dye.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was not, had nothing to do with. But I was expecting, to be a true crossover with him and his Contra music and the MLW title around his waist and all this stuff, and it just wasn't.
Well, MLW hasn't run shows in such a long time. Maybe they still got the belt. And you didn't have access to the belt.
Possible.
I mean, it's not like they're like a really touring brand where they do house shows. They'll do like a show like every. I mean, even when they were running regular, they would do like a show and tape 4 episodes at a time. So it may be one of those things where the belt just stays with the promotion. He just shows up.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Trying to think anything else that we haven't covered. Show breaking my heart. Joining Bullet Club.
That's right. I remember texting. I remember like I am saying that show's gonna break your heart.
Yeah, I mean, it was rough to see him. I mean, we've seen it coming for a while, but it was just rough to see him beat down Yo like that.
I kind of think they were going to go the other way. I really thought that Yo would be the one to turn heel in that show.
I kind of thought so too. That was where I was thinking. But it makes sense because Show is the more talented of the two.
But he was also the more popular of the two. So it kind of, to me, it made sense that he'd be fighting from underneath, Yo being the heel, having the Bullet Club tactics.
Yeah, true.
I don't know.
But yeah, that was kind of rough to watch.
Well, we also did not mention that fantastic I Quit match between Yano and Chase Owens.
I didn't watch it. Oh, wait, no, I did watch that. That was amazing. Watching Yano be his GBH character again.
Yeah.
That was, if that kind of Yano comes out there, I'll be a Yano fan.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And like seeing Chase get frustrated because he can't get Yano to give up to the straps. So he walks away from the handcuffs to go get. I think he went to go get a couple of chairs or something. And Yano has the handcuffs taped.
Well, and who was it? Charlton that said, "Of course he has the keys. He brought the handcuffs."
Yeah, exactly.
But I love that version of Yano. That was one of my favorite. That might have been. I mean, his comedy stuff, depending on who he's doing it with, like his match last year against Takahashi, where Takahashi sent him down the elevator to get the win. That was fun. He's had a few other fun matches, but Toru Yano has been such a ridiculous comedy character for so long. It's nice to see him return to his GBH roots.
Yeah, and not a good comedy character like Brandon Cutler either. Just
no,
really irritating. And yeah, it was. I mean, and guys, if you haven't seen it, I mean, basically, Chase Owens is bound and determined. He is not going to give up. He's the Texas heavyweight champion. He's finally got the NJP or the what's it called?
KOPW.
The KOPW provisional championship. You know, the only one to ever hold it besides Yano. And he keeps yelling never every time there's another crystal mic in his face until Yano's literally going to stab his eye out.
Yep.
Out. And he finally he's like, give up. Because he has to, otherwise, he'll lose an eye. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of Yano we have not seen, well, ever since Jeff and I started watching, but I mean, in general, in pro wrestling for like, I don't know, 8 years, 9 years. So,
Well, he became the comedy character when Nakamura left Chaos, and Chaos kind of became face. When Chaos was heel, he was that character, but once they turned into a face group, he became the comedy character.
right.
So we're talking 2013, 14.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure the exact time frame, but I know it was before we started watching regular.
Yeah. And he hit and miss with me. Like I said, that match against Takahashi. And I don't know if that was because Takahashi does that part so well too, but that was a fun match. And the match against the first match against Chase Owens, I thought was fun too. But man,
The strap match.
Yeah, I want this though.
Go ahead.
This is the Toru Yano I want going forward. And I don't know, was he this Toru Yano in the G1? Because I didn't watch that match.
I didn't either, but no, I did like see like the as they were going away. Apparently, was it Takahashi? I think it might have been Takahashi or it was either Takahashi or Kenta who was against the first round, and like he had been like I guess taped to the rail, but then he like snuck out and like snuck up behind and got a roll. So.
Well, and it was funny too that because every time Yoro has done, or every time he has done the low blow, Kevin Kelly's monitors always goes out. And in that match, it was the first time it didn't go out. He goes, I saw that. My monitor didn't go out this time.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was fun too. Another thing that we didn't talk about that we really should, Kota Ibushi losing to Yujiro Takahashi.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he lost to the C-level Bullet Club member. The defending two-time G1 winner lost to the C team of the Bullet Club.
Wait, does he even get that high of a ranking?
Oh yeah, because I don't think there's anybody below him.
Okay, that's what I meant. Is like, why is he a C and not like a D?
Well, because you kind of look at God, Jay White. They're the A team. The B team is Chase Owens. I can't remember his name. Big guy. Hikuleo. Yeah, but the other big guy.
Oh.
I haven't seen him for so long. I can't even think of his name.
Yeah, the underboss. I can't think of his name either. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of the B team, and then I would say that Takahashi would be the C team.
Well, we're already Evil and Kenta. There must be on the.
They're the B team. They're the B team.
Are they? I mean, Evil's a former world champion, so I kind of have to put him on the A level too.
You think so? I mean, because up there with God and Jay White.
Yeah, because on any given day he's going to be challenging for the world championship.
I suppose the same with Kenta. Kenta would probably be up in that A team as well.
Yeah, I think Kento's kind of like on that border. I guess you can kind of say they're both on that border, but like Evil was just the most recent world championship challenge. So I don't know how you can not have him on the A level.
But yeah, I mean, Kota losing to him was a weird step.
Yeah, and then against Ishii, he didn't look that sharp either. Like against Ishii, I swear Ishii got like 85% of the offense in, and Kota hit a standing. What the hell is his finishing? Anyway, he had the standing knee strike, then he hit the ground knee strike, and got the win. That was pretty much most of his offense, right?
Aren't they calling it the Golden Trigger?
No, that was.
I thought they kept that name
with Ken. No, that was just.
Yeah, but I thought I know, but I thought he kept that name when Kenny left. I thought
No,
he
he
kept
did
it as
not.
his finisher.
It's
The
still his
other thing,
finisher, but it's not the name of the move. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
the other thing, and while you're looking that up, the other thing that we really need to talk about, because
It's the
I already referenced it. I already referenced it once.
Kamigoye. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, okay. I already referenced it once, and we were going to talk about it later. But how much fun was that Effie versus Scorpio match in
It was a
highest
lot
of
of
the
fun.
room? That was just from start to finish. Their little dance off or whatever they were doing in the beginning, and then the stuff during the match itself, just everything about it was great.
I've really enjoyed Scorpio matches. I've seen him back in GCW. There was the one against Effie, like you just said, and then the other one was who was he against before? I mean, it was somebody that I've never seen wrestle before, but that was funny as hell. Where the Grim Reaper, that's what his name was, the Grim Reaper, where
Okay.
they're like passing a joint around in the crowd, and then the Reaper like goes to give Scorpio like taste of the blunt, and Scorpio goes to he like lifts up his mask to like take a hit, and Reaper like kicks him in the gut, and then um Reaper's like puts the Reaper in, and then he gets Scorpio in a headlock. Instead of like trying to kick out of the headlock, Scorpio just reaches up and grabs Reaper and throws it across the ring, so Reaper let go get the
That's funny.
the blunt.
That's funny. Yeah, and that's the way comedy matches should be. A comedy character and comedy match should be is still a damn decent wrestler, but being able to poke fun at things. And I wouldn't necessarily call Effie a comedy wrestler, but the match that he had, that was just entertaining. It was just entertaining and fun. Except for that, 30 seconds, I thought Effie was dead.
Yeah.
You take out that little bit. You take out that little bit, and that match was just fun. And it's free on Fight now, isn't it?
It's free for us because I bought it.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't know you bought it. I went and logged on. I'm like, this must be free. So they don't do anything free on there,
huh? No. It's like $50 a show or something.
Yeah, that's just
kind of like the way TNA used to be. They have to make money somehow.
Yeah, I suppose, because they're probably not making a ton off the gate. And
no, I mean it's not like they have a network TV deal. I mean maybe they would get some money if they signed up to like were part of Fight Plus or something, or they had a deal like NWA Power does, but
right,
they're getting but I don't know. I mean I think that their business model seems to work fine.
Yeah, I mean they're able to afford big name talent. I can't imagine Moxley went in there for $25. Yeah.
No, I can't either.
So it's obviously working. They're obviously getting the buys and things.
Yeah, you can kind of imagine if Moxley like told Renee like I'm gonna go wrestle Nick Cage for $100 in a death match. She'd be like, what?
Right. Yeah, I can't see that happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, but there's a lot of, and I wish there was a way to watch GCW for free, because I would like to turn people onto it, get people turned onto it, and because I think it's just another great promotion.
Well, they actually last Saturday they actually did have a free show. So they last Saturday like I bought Highest in the Room, but the next day they had a like cross promotional match on their YouTube channel. Or cross promotional show on their YouTube channel. That's probably like a 2 or 3 hour show too. They do they do eventually like put some of their big shows on their YouTube channel for free, but you're not going to be able to see like most of their live shows are going to be up here. Or like if you get like, or like if you sign up to IWTV.com, they've got like 35 or something GCW shows on there, and that's like a $10 a month wrestling streaming service that has like thousands and thousands of hours of pro wrestling from all kinds of different wrestlers on. It's just not cool. It's just not something I've signed up for because like where the fuck do I have time to watch something besides what I'm watching?
I barely have time to watch what I watch now.
Right, exactly.
I would love to be able to sit down and watch the entire G1, but with Dynamite and with AEW, and then it's AEW. I don't want to miss a second of, and I haven't felt that way about any wrestling company in years.
Well, I'll miss Time for Dark and Elevation, but for their big shows or big national TV shows, those ones I'm going to not miss.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying is I don't want to miss a second of their televised shows, their YouTube shows.
We have another hour of network television programming starting the next Wednesday. You know,
What's
with
that?
The Roast at the Top show starting on Wednesday.
Oh, like I'm gonna watch that shit.
I'm going to.
I don't know that I'm really into a reality TV show.
Well, it's got Cody and Brandy as the main stars, but different wrestlers are going to pop up every week. Like we've seen Ricky Starks on there. We've seen it'll give us a chance to like see other some of their talents like kind of behind the scenes and how they are like, well, quote unquote real life, right? Because most reality shows are kind of scripted anyway.
How did we miss talking about that? Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes.
Oh my God, the crowd was not into Cody at all on that show.
No, and he didn't like. You got to give credit to The Rock, because his match against Hogan, when they came out and booed The Rock and cheered Hogan, The Rock, even though he was the babyface, played the heel during that match. Cody got booed mercilessly, and he stayed the babyface the whole match.
And did you see that moment where he was just in utter shock? Like, he looked around like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got a guy who's NWO cool. You've got versus a guy who never loses a feud, who people have been, us especially, have been saying he's been a heel for the last 2 years, and who is seen as a guy who's using his position in the company to further his own career, against a guy who is NWO cool that everybody loves. They've got mistreated by his former company. So right. It's not surprising.
Yeah, people really wanted to cheer Aleister Black in WWE. They wanted to get behind him, and every time he started getting momentum, they pulled him off TV. Yep. And now he's getting a platform on AEW where he's not being, like you said, he's not being overexposed, but he's going out there and he's got this amazing fucking entrance, right? And he's got this incredible character, the Dark Messenger. Malachi Black, Black is dark and Malachi means messenger. So Dark Messenger. And he's going out there and he's having these outstanding matches, even against, a guy who's only had 4 matches before him in Brock Anderson, and he's having these incredible matches against Lee Johnson, and he's going against
Dustin and Cody and
Dustin and Cody, exactly. So I don't know how you can possibly possibly boo Malachi Black.
Not at this point. And I think as much as I love the work that Cody's done, I feel like there was a time when Cody was one of the top 5-6 wrestlers on the planet. I still think storytelling wise, he is character wise. It just doesn't fit him. Him being a baby face only fits him because he's one of the faces of the company. Him being a baby face mixed with his character doesn't really fit because, like you said, his character never loses a feud. He's not lost one feud in AEW.
No, I saw a perfect tweet to explain where Cody is right now with his character and the crowd reactions and how people feel about him, and that is, he comes out in this red, white, and blue when he's wrestling, but he's not Captain America. He's Homelander. He's Homelander.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The other thing too is he got a lot of flack, and it doesn't. I still don't understand why people are. Actually thought Anthony Ogogo was going to go over on Memorial Day weekend against a guy calling himself the American Dream, and Anthony Ogogo is the foreigner. I don't know why people thought he was going to win, but the fact that he didn't win is kind of where I saw the rest of the public turning on him. Like we've been saying he's a heel for years. Well, for the last year and a half or so, just
Yeah.
because of his tactics and everything. But I think that was when people really started to turn on him, and then his feigning retirement, I think I don't think anybody bought into that angle at all. And it was just, I saw that it upset a lot of people because it was Cody trying to make that squash match that should have put Malachi Black really over, was trying to make the moment about himself. There was a lot of.
It was also bizarre the week before with Rosario Dawson jumping on the back of Malachi Black,
and them not explaining it.
Well, no, they explained that that she was like this co-host on the Go Big Show, but that's what it's called, right? The Go Big Show. Anyway,
I think so.
But it's like, why wouldn't Malachi just like throw her off the shit out of her? That's the part that didn't make sense, I think. And then Cody like coming out of the crowd. Well, the crowd was booing Cody. They weren't cheering.
Yeah, they weren't when he was running. They were cheering Rosario Dawson, but once Cody got involved, they started booing him.
Right.
It just. I think that moment that not only the Anthony Ogogo thing, but also the his retirement thing really turned a lot of people on him.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, you've got him who never loses a feud. He made a superstar making moment for Malachi Black about himself. With all of that going on, and then you've got Super Cool Dude against him. Of course, he's going to get booed like that.
Yeah, the Arn Anderson stuff was interesting, and Arn was actually on Busted Open talking about that this week too. And it sounds like they're really doing where Arn kind of said, well, he's too Hollywood now. He's like Cody. Yeah, he goes, Cody could never coach me because he doesn't have the experience that I have, but I'm trying to coach him, and he doesn't want to listen because he's too Hollywood these days. So that
really?
Was, yeah. So that was interesting too.
Arn Anderson went in character on Busted Open.
Well,
nice.
The interview kind of started off with him being out of character, like talking about the backstage stuff and how nice everybody is, how great Tony is to work with and stuff, but then yeah, like when they asked about Cody, he was like, yeah, Cody's just too Hollywood now. So
that before this match or after?
It was after this match because they were talking about because they were talking about how Arn, why did you get up on the apron? He said, well, because I fell down. I couldn't get out of the ring to check on me, and I got up on the ring to tell him, don't you ever come down here and check on me? You need to focus on what's going on in the ring.
Well, and wasn't Cody early last summer? We kind of thought he was going to turn heel because he was having all kinds of issues with. No, it was last winter. Because he was having issues not listening to Arn and being more aggressive and all this stuff, and that's when they decided to turn QT on him instead.
Yeah.
But they were kind of leading towards a Cody heel turn then.
Seems like it.
At least it felt like it. But now if they're gonna ever turn Cody heel, now is the time. Because with that crowd reaction, and I don't doubt Tony Khan for a second. So if he turns him heel, great. If he doesn't, there's got to be a reason for it. But now, in my eyes, is the time you turn. It was basically a double turn that happened in that match, if you think about it.
Well, the thing with Cody in this spot is not only does it feel like the right time to turn it heel, but really, it also feels like he could be the face that this American Top Team thing needs, right? Where you've got Dan Lambert out there as a spokesperson, but really Scorpio Sky and Invitational feel like the right fit for that stable to me. At least not yet. And really what Lambert is doing is he's not really getting them over at all, he's getting himself over. Whereas like Cody, looking out the crowd going, and probably thinking to himself internally, like, I've got 20,189 people booing me, and I'm the one that created this fucking promotion. I'm in the face of
Right.
this promotion. I'm the one that I was the spokesperson. I was one of the ones that brought this to you, and you're booing me
Right.
and joining, but then like not only turning heel, but also joining up with the guy that's talking about how bad the organization is, and like saying stuff like, "I'm going to join up with American Top Team. We're going to take down this goddamn promotion away from the people."
Right.
To me, would be the perfect thing to do.
Yeah, that's probably a good story for him too. Because like I said, now I think though is the time to turn him heel. Now that they'll capitalize on it. He hasn't been a heel since his early Bullet Club days. When God turned on them and the Tongans all turned on the Elite.
Right, where it looked
That
like
was
where it looked like right where it looked like Cody was going to be the one like turning against Kenny, but actually it was Jay White that pulled everything up from underneath both. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and that was when Tama handed him the chair.
Yeah.
And he refused to hit Kenny, instead he hit Tama with it.
Right.
You know, that was when he turned face, and he hasn't been a heel since.
Yeah, so that's been a little bit over 3 years.
Yeah, so it's time for him to turn heel anyway. I did it with the Bucks. We did it with Kenny. It's time for Cody to turn heel too.
Yeah, I just think that they should stay away from having Cody join the Elite. He should be heel
absolutely
separately.
And you know, I would love to see Dustin and Lee Johnson turn heel with him. You know, they're done with the Nightmare Factory, so they don't need to be a face faction anymore.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
And if you think about it,
I wonder like where, how long the fact that, speaking of that, the factory is going to be in limbo now, because they're still waiting for Anthony Ogogo to recover from his eye surgery, right? So I mean, it's
I
like,
don't know.
and this is like his 7th or 8th eye surgery, and so it's because I think like that's kind of I think that it should be like the end goal if they're going to keep using Paul White in this role, is to have him lose to Ogogo, right? Or at least or Camarado, one of the two.
Right.
I think those guys both have tremendous upside, but you got to do something to. That's like the one thing where like we saw Paul White take on Marshall at All Out, but we haven't really seen the factory at all since then.
Well, if you think about it, factions in wrestling are usually heels anyway. I mean, you've always got that one face faction that's in the company, but for the most part, if you're a faction, you're a heel. And right now, the Inner Circle's the face faction. Well, on Dark Order, I guess they have 3 face factions right now: Dark Order, Inner Circle, and Nightmare Family. Turn Nightmare Family heel.
Death Triangle.
Yeah, Death Triangle too. Jesus, they have way too many face factions. You're only supposed to have 1, not 6.
Death Triangle is probably more like a tweeter faction. I mean, definitely the Lucha Brothers are tweeting faces, but I can't really say Pac is.
Death Triangle is kind of the LIJ. They're that tweener faction that will just feud with anybody.
Yeah, they're kind of like I don't know if you said you haven't seen it, but I'm not sure if you've seen the Trod for Brody King. When it comes out, it says no heroes, no villains, just violence.
Violence. Nice. All right. Well, I've got nothing else to talk about. I need to go watch MLW Alpha. I need to watch NJPW Strong, and I need to finish Rampage.
And we got Cry Macho to watch today too.
Oofta.
Yeah, unless you want to, we want to.
And my Google finally came up, and I just realized that you sent me a couple of shows that I didn't even know I had in my email.
Oh, lovely.
I'll have to get those posted too.
Well, maybe we should we just do you still want to do a show tomorrow, or?
It's up to you. I mean, Cry Macho is Clint Eastwood. I haven't seen a good Clint Eastwood movie in probably 5 years, so I wouldn't mind watching it.
All right, let's get that in today and watch that show tomorrow.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so guys, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, this is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye.